Hey everyone, Espira here, and welcome back to the Super Combo Podcast. As usual, I'm joined by our co-host Chris of UniX. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fairly well, I would suppose. I'm just chilling, editing, geeking out on some Dragon Ball news. It's just actually a bunch of Dragon Ball tonight. That's literally all that's happening in my life right
Yeah, very fair. We did have a week of relaxation, but Bandai also blessed us with even more reveals. Very timely, we got Vegeta SCR as the Christmas present, and then we got a new SCR as our New Year's present. But overall, decent time. I myself had a pretty relaxing New Year's. Turns out everyone around me is isolating, so it was pretty, including myself, because my roommate. Caught the vid, so just kind of vibing. But for the most part,
now.
just
No, the vid.
yeah, but it's fine. Like between catching COVID like a year and a half ago and like two vaccinations in, I'm pretty immunized at this point. So we're just kind of vibing, waiting the isolation period out. But yeah, so generally pretty relaxing. Got to, like you said, geek out on some cards, watch some cards, speculate, laugh about green again. Um, but overall, pretty good. Enjoyed my break. You enjoy your week of holidays before jumping back into the real world.
Well, I mean, I was really enjoying myself until I saw that second SCR. That kind of took me out. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Well, actually, not that far off. So, our discussion topics for today are going to be the set 16 black and green reveals. Last week we had black cards, and then kicking off the week, we did have some green reveals. Uh, Generally, short podcast for the most part. We've only really got cards, not that much news to go over. However, we will give Chris a quick second once we're done with all the reveals to talk about his hype for the new news that came out about the new Dragon Ball movie. And then finally, Thinking on Charge, which is no longer Thinking on Charge, actually. I guess I might as well make the announcement now. I thought it was like a really good name when I implemented it as a segment of the podcast. Well, yeah, it turns out it's such a good name. It's actually the name of a Dragon Ball podcast.
Oh,
Yeah,
what is?
yeah, Thinking on Charge.
Okay then.
Yeah, so you know what? In respects to them, first off, go ahead and if you guys want more podcasting in your life, go check out Thinking on Charge while you're at it. But we will be changing over this segment from Thinking on Charge to the SC mailbag. So we'll just be calling it that from episode 3 onwards. So, of course, if you guys ever want to shoot a message or questions for us to answer on air, then just go into the Espira TCG Discord or just at me with the hashtag SC mailbag and we'll answer on the show. So, kicking us off is that SCR that you have also mentioned, revealed on New Year's Day, Super Mirror Diabolical Fusion. It is a unison with 4 specified yellow. It's a 25k, ultimate dual attack blocker, empower yellow 3 or black 3. For those guys who don't know, empower basically means that if this unison replaces a unison on board, it gains up to 3 markers if that unison has 3 or more markers. So if the unison would have 1, it would gain 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, maxing out at the number, which for this SCR is 3. It has an activate main for 4, where if your leader card is a black android card, you get to play it from your hand with 4 markers on it, making it viable to be able to be played in decks like Finn or Mira, for example. And then has a +1 auto when your opponent attacks, switch this card to active mode, so effectively not allowing you to plus on your own turn. But with Empower, you should probably be at the markers to use his ultimate anyways. But it does mean he's effectively a dual blocker, which is super cool. You could block and then the auto timing procs, and then you can resend him, block again, or you could swing with him twice with his dual attacker and then get the block trigger afterwards. But finally, he has an activate main, allows him to be a finisher, which you would hope for a Unison SCR -4. Choose all your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier and KO them. Then choose up to 2 of your opponent's cards and switch them to rest mode. And then the card gets 15k and double striker, meaning that offensively, he is a 40k dual attacking double striker. There's a lot of text. How do you feel about it?
I will instantly play this card the moment they ban every other relevant secret rare in the game. Um, I don't. All right, so Unison secret rares are already going to be odd. Okay, your secret or your Unison normally is supposed to sit on the board and provide value the longer the game goes on. So generally, you want a Unison that you're going to be playing early in the game who's just going to sit there and, kind of do the thing. So a unison finisher is always going to be a little weirder just because the fact that, like, I don't know, like in card design, Bandai doesn't like making secret rares that just in the game the moment they come down. And unisons are already not uninteractable, but they're harder to interact with than a lot of other cards. So they generally have stipulations onto how strong they are. So when you make an SCR unison, you're going to get a card that can end the game, and you're going to get a card that's fairly tame in effect due to it not being interacted with the same way as battle cards. Therefore, it's hard for me to get on board with a unison secret just because I feel like design wise, they're kind of pigeonholed in a certain realm of power. And then on top of this one, when I look at him, it's like he doesn't necessarily win the game. He can be defensive. That's cool. I just don't see myself playing this over necessarily Kai or Pan. Let me just to make sure I'm not tripping. Let me just peep at this thing one more time before I just like relegate it to the Shadow Realm.
It's like, I mean, it's fine, right? Like, at least they made it playable with the black decks also. I mean, I don't know who's playing Mira, but at least you're playing Finn. It gives you an alternative option. Like, I don't hate it. But like,
this is fair.
It feels like Red Gotenks to me, where it's like, yeah, you can run it. But like when we're talking about versus like Kai or versus Pan, like those generic options that are just so much more tempo oriented, I think end up working out better. Like you said, they don't really print finisher SCRs anymore, and it always feels like these unison SCRs they print are trying to be finishers, but they're honed in a way that kind of ends up them being like fine, if anything.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm looking at it again. Yeah, you're playing 4, and it literally, okay, luckily it doesn't have that normal stipulation of I can't swing unless I have X amount of counters, because that would be infuriating. But you're playing this guy for 4 energy, and then he has Empower 3, so he's gonna go up to 7 if your unison has 3, minus back down to 3. I mean, he's definitely got longevity being a 25k unison, but he's also blocker, so he's probably going to be taking a hit. And I don't know, a dual attack, double striker that's 4,000. That sounds really cool, like that sells Xeno vibes, but we are in the realm of like yellow, tap that crap down or so help me God .deck. And I just don't know.
Like, you do get to rest 2 energy. Like, that is a thing you can do. That is
true.
Right?
Cut him
like,
off with that power of the Super Saiyan.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing, right? That's the thing with this unison. I feel like it's better than Gotenks because, like, yeah, it feels like you are definitely going to tap out for this thing usually. Or you could go to 5 and then have 1 up. Like, that's fine too. But this one does a better job of mitigating what your opponent can do as a response to it, because you get to rest 2 energy, because you get to clear out their board. Whereas with Gotenks, like, Gotenks did like a board wipe and that was pretty much it, which meant like if your opponent had a negate, then that was it and the game was over. But also, if it was true for Gotenks, it's especially going to be true for Mira. It is really, I have never seen someone get rid of my unison SCR when it was on board when I was playing Gotenks.
That's fair.
So like, so this thing will stick, but so like, it's not so much I think the quality of the card so much as I just think it's the opportunity cost. Like, you draw this early, you're basically stuck to not being able to play your SCR until turn 4, turn 5. Whereas, Pan, you could play turn 2, turn 3. Kai, you could play turn 2, turn 3 and board wipe your opponent. And then like on your opponent's turn, which would give you the opening to be able to go like, full throttle on them. So I think this card isn't so much, like, it's not a bad card. I actually kind of like it. I think it actually does a lot. I think, between resting, between clearing your opponent's board and being a threat that also is defensive afterwards, so you're not like left defenses down, like, it does a lot. It's just more so like you said at the beginning of when we talked about the card, like, it's just the opportunity cost, right? I'm not going to run this over the other SCRs I could 9 times out of 10 just because those are better for my tempo. They're more cost efficient, yada, yada, yada. But it's not actually a bad card.
All right. I can back up on that one. I feel you.
Yeah. So like, so that's it. Like, it's an okay card. It'll do fine. But now that we have 2 SCRs revealed, we only have 1 more until we know what the God secret rare is. Because you guys don't know, in this set specifically, they're introducing a God rare. They've done it with Digimon previously, where basically I think the ratio for the Ghost Omnimon that they released in Digimon was 1 in 24 cases. So extremely high rarity card, if the ratios are even the same for Dragon Ball. And whereas previously I'm fairly certain I saw on the product page it said SR, and I stand by that unless my memory is really that bad. From the release of the trailer, it is a secret rare. So our options at the moment are Super Mira or Universe 7 Vegeta. So unless we get a Goku secret rare as our third one, like maybe a green one to go with the green archetype or something, unless we get a Goku secret rare, there is no way in hell that god rare is not going to be Vegeta, which I'm super hyped about, don't get me wrong. Because here's the thing. The first god rare, it's a marketing thing, right? Like you get people talking hype about your game, like, oh, sick, we just got a god rare, you know, it's this 1 in 24, it's extremely rare, they just did it with Digimon. And then when people ask you, like, oh, sick, what's the character, there ain't no way in hell the first fucking god rare is gonna be Super Mira.
All right,
like there's just no way in hell you throw away the marketing ability of your first god rare to be a character that like 9 out of 10 Dragon Ball fans don't know about.
All right, you ready? You ready? Because I'm about to drop some spice on your, on your podcast.
Yeah. All right, go.
Spice of the likes that have only been murmured within the shadows of my Discord or personal chats. So here we go. All right, we have one more secret rare left. We had a yellow and a red SER.
Yeah.
Now, something I found interesting was before they showed us Vegeta, I was not sure whether or not we were going to get another red SER, U7 SER actually, because we had just gotten one 2 sets ago. I was like, they can bring, you know, and ironically, I literally said, I think 2 sets ago when I was doing predictions, there's no way you introduce U7 as a color and don't give it an SER because of its like just its presence and hype. And then this time I was like, are they really just going to do 2 sets? Well, 2 sets over the course of 3 with red SCRs for U7, and they did. They straight up did. I'll bet this one's a lot better. But my thing is, this Goku, they gave Goku an ability to bring back the SR or the SCR just so that if you mill it, you are going to still have a way to use it. Now, Trunks, he is a focal point for this like set. He was a highly anticipated character. He is the poster boy of Dragon Ball Heroes, and Dragon Ball Heroes 20th anniversary just went by. Like, Dokkan just got Super Saiyan God Trunks as a character. We're getting Super Saiyan God Trunks in this next set. And that Trunks throws cards into the warp off the top of your deck. So I've been thinking that it is very likely that we get a Super Saiyan God Trunks SCR that can be played from the warp or hand. Or just warp, because that way you can have an SCR that is cohesively with your deck, just like the U7 did. At the same time, there's this like Chrono Key, which is like this super weird white sword that Trunks has that's attached to his hand, and it's what he uses to like completely dust Mechagabora. Unless they decide to randomly throw that on his SPR, there's no representation of his like ultimate weapon. And it went hand in hand with his God form. He got Super Saiyan God. He was able to activate the Chrono Key and then destroy Mechagabora. So I think it would not be a far off prediction to think that we could get a black SCR Super Saiyan God Trunks that has the Chrono Key played from the warp, and that could also be our God rare.
Okay. I like the spec. I think it's solid, especially given that I do think God Trunks actually got not enough representation in this set, given that his hallmark, like his first appearance and like the set's very heavily based around him, especially since like everything that has to do with the mirrors and all that kind of stuff, like he's very much at the heart of it all. So as his first showcase, I do think we haven't seen enough of him. So like fair enough. But like, so then if it was between Universe 7 Vegeta and Keyblade God Trunks, you know, which one you think is getting the spot?
I don't know, which one do they let ass pull every time he steps on the screen, and which one do they keep shafting every time they step on the screen? I think it's pretty clear. History shall repeat itself once again.
But nevertheless, I mean, at this point, I'm just kind of wondering how they're going to showcase it, right? Because like they've been very thematic. They've just been very timely so far. Where we got one SCR at Christmas, we got one SCR at New Year's. So either you're doing them 5 days apart, or maybe they'll do it on a direct, I guess. Um, I don't know. Mm,
Hear me out.
yeah.
You look at your Discord chat. Tell me what I just sent you would not look amazing on an SCR, and tell me that they could not hype that up even further with a higher rarity.
That's a pretty nice sword he's got there.
Like I'm saying, like that is they could make the entire thing just white and blue with the only color being his red hair, eyes, and eyebrows, and it would just look like a crazy looking card.
I will
So I'm
say,
just kind of like,
yeah, if they're basing it anything similar to how they did Ghost Omni, then I will say God Trunks with this Keyblade 100% works like extremely well. Like the red and the blue, and then you do the rest with white, kind of like how Omni. Yeah, that would look super clean, 100%.
it's just Omnimon with red hair. The third secret rare is Omnimon in this game. There we go. Hold up.
Yeah, there you go. You got Key Blast from one arm, you got a sword on the other. It's basically Omni.
That makes sense. It definitely makes sense. I love when we were all joking about it, like the guest star cameo. It's just like it's just Omnimon. It's just
I'm not, honestly, I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was so funny. Like, yo, I'd be down with Omnimon. Yeah, bro, like actually not bad. Oh god. And then some people were like specking on like Naruto and stuff like that, and I was like, it was kind of tough because like I had seen Pan by then already. So like when everyone was guessing on the stream as to what like she was gonna be, what the guess SGR was gonna be, I was just like, yo, shit, maybe it is Omnimon. Because
I mean, but we heard guess and we thought it was guessed, you know, like
yeah. Well, that's actually what I learned actually when I learned with Bandai afterwards. It actually turns out anytime we pull from heroes, it's a guest character.
Which is that makes a lot of sense. It's actually, to be honest, it's why we don't have Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta in Finn.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but we can have Mira Finn, but we can't have Monkey Finn.
Yeah, it's weird. The world of licensing is incredibly complicated in my opinion, and leads to a lot of things that I feel like, even though they do make sense, like in the back room, and like I'm sure Bandai tries their best to make everything work out, so like all the power to them. But yeah, so it was just a little jarring considering that like it feels like that a third of the set now are guest characters as far as our game is concerned, and it's just like we've been having guest characters in our game, that means for like 2 years at this point.
It's really rough because we've been in a lull. Like Super's been over for a bit, and so outside of the movies coming out, it's really hard for them to pull new characters. They have to keep recycling. But then you have Dragon Ball Heroes, which just has a plethora of unused assets that can just be finally utilized. And like I get why it's happening. It's just I want to be out of the Unison Warrior block.
Same. I'm like here's the thing. I get why they're doing it. They're, like you said, there's a ton of assets, and that's a massive aspect of creating a card game. It's just like what assets we have available to make cards with. So like fair. And I understand that Heroes is a massive pool that exists, that for what it's worth only really exists in Japan. So there's no harm, no foul in making the rest of the world play with the same art in a different card game. But like, and I've been saying this for like 2 sets now, I am so done with Unison Warrior. It feel, not only from a meta perspective does everything feel samey for like the last few sets, but like just the set thematics itself are all so incredibly samey that it's just like, oh my god, I don't know. I'm a little tired of it, and I'd look forward to us like maybe moving on to something else. And I mean, for what it's worth, the movie should give us, into that, and like hopefully after the movie, if the anime comes out too, it'd work really well marketing wise. We can tie in sets with the release of the anime. I think that'd be super cool. But
oh dude, it would be amazing. Like let's just say we get the Moro arc and starting being animated, and then we also get the movie in April. Like we could see, actually, I mean, to be fair, that means that like we could see, I think I would hope they don't do like a theme booster. I would like it if, since we're getting the movie in April, we get this set. Actually, wow, that lines up perfectly. We get the next set in March. Give it 3 months for what, 2-3 months for the next set to come out, kind of 3-ish, and
yeah.
that puts us a little later. So that would actually be perfect. Like the set after the next set should have movie cards in it. If we look at kind of the scope for any of the kind of blue cards. So That or not the blue cards, the Dragon Ball Z Super Broly cards. So that would actually be pretty cool. And then if the Moro art came out later, we could see like maybe the last set of the year, second to last set of the year, coming out with Moro cards mixed in with some other archetypes. So I feel like there's a lot. There's a lot we can do here. I think
Yeah.
they're kind of on pace as long as Dragon Ball Super comes back within the next calendar year.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, something to freshen up. If not, it's like, honestly, if not, then it'll probably just end up being like Unison Warrior block for the next calendar year, TBH. Like we already know that they already have the set planned in terms of like what supports, and it's going to be Unison Warrior again after this one. So who knows? We'll see. But like you said, things line up well. So hopefully, there's been no announcements about Dragon Ball coming back, and usually those happen about a year out. So maybe going into the next year, but. A lot on the table, at least, for what it's worth, at least we know the story is going somewhere. And if at any point in time they decide to pull the trigger on like the anime following through, at least they have material to last themselves, a couple of seasons. And then at least that'll push new content towards the game for a little while beyond that.
Yeah, Dragon Ball IP just don't die.
No,
Like,
I mean, the show was off air for like what 20 years, and that shit was still like one of the best IPs in the world.
for real. We were like, I wonder what happens next. The show's been done for like 8 years in Japan. Like, well, all right, that's true. That's true.
All right. Well, moving on from the SCR, the black archetype that we got unveiled. Obviously, we got Super Saiyan God Trunks previously, but the other archetype is actually Dabura. An archetype that I personally am not too excited about, but there are some key black cards that the archetype presented that I think are exciting for the colors as a whole. So we have Dabura. Auto, when this card attacks, you have to look at top 5 cards. You either get anything from the Demon One race, so Demon God, Evil Wizard, Demon Realm, all the Mecha Copper cards. You have to pick one and then shuffle your deck, and then you can awaken either at 4 life or when your opponent is awakened, which is kind of cool. You draw 2, but like ish, because you draw 2 cards and then you go down to 4 life no matter what. So like it's an alt awakened, but like regardless, you're going down to 4 life, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. You get a lot of cards in hand. And then on the awakened side, we have Demon God Dabura, Diabolical Awakening. With Auto, when he swings, you draw 1. Activate main once per turn for 1 specified black. Play up to 1 black unison card with no specified cost. And 20k power from your drop with a marker on it in rest mode. At the end of the turn, send that card to warp. Bro, I didn't even read that part before. Bro, that is so butt. Oh my god. Bro, oh my god.
I was just letting you go through it right now. I was like,
Bro, I didn't even realize that the first time around. My god. Okay, fine. And then activate battle once per turn. You get the spirit boost 1, and then kill your own kill your own Mechie, I guess. And then he gets 6k for the battle. This leader is ass, bro.
the leader is beyond trash. Like that leader is actual unadulterated AIDS, bro. Like it is. The more I think about it, the more mad I get. It's just, it's rough, man. It's actually rough.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan, but like, so here's the thing. So the unison it synergizes with, I guess, so that our listeners get like the full picture, is that there's a new SR black unison, Dark King Macabre Might Inconceivable. So he is a 20k no specified cost unison that has the stipulation that he can't attack if he has 3 or fewer markers. He has Empower Black 2, which does means that he'll gain additional markers if there's already a unison on board. With an auto once per turn, when you play a Black Demon Realm race card using swap, you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards when you cost 3 or less and set it to warp. I actually don't mind that. It's a pretty good effect. If you're just going to be swapping anyways, it gives you benefits. With the activate main +1, you get to choose one card in your hand and place that at the bottom of your deck, draw one. So, I mean, even then, he's so mediocre. But effectively, that's what this archetype does. And actually, the one thing I will say that's really interesting about this archetype is that it's a wide swap strategy, not a tall swap. So with swap, we've always seen ourselves go from, Goku lineage card to Goku lineage card to Goku lineage card to end on a boss monster. We did Broly swap, it was the same thing. We go from one Broly to another to get to a big boss monster. With the Dabura archetype and the Demon God stuff, it's all go wide. So they only swap 1 level up. But there's multiple cards that swap. So you have Toa that swaps into Toa. You have Poutine that swaps into Poutine, so on and so forth. So I think that's kind of a cool idea. But like, again, I don't think this unison's worth it, especially since you're just going to lose it at the end of your turn anyways. You're paying an energy to play it, and then it doesn't even get to attack because it doesn't have enough markers. And then you +1 to cycle a card out of your hand.
When I say this card is ass Chico's, man, it is
Yeah. So there's just not a lot to say there. But leader and unison aside, I will say the art's pretty cool. I actually really like the art on Dark King Macabre. And actually something to look forward to is that we have more SPRs now. They toned down the amount of SRs in the set and bumped up the number of SPRs. So, some of these cool cards will hopefully look even cooler if the SRs already look this good. But the benefit of this black archetype is the fact that it actually gave us a decent amount of black SRs as well as a couple of commons, actually, surprisingly enough, that really boost stuff that already exists. So kicking us off, we have Demon God Toa Umbral Might. 3-cost 15k dual attacker that EX evolves on a Toa with energy cost of 2 or less for a specified black and 1. And then has the auto that when this card is played from your hand, you get to draw 1 card. Then your opponent may choose up to 2 of their battle cards and or cards in their hand and send them to the warp. If they don't or send 1 or fewer, you get to choose one of their unison cards with 4 or more markers and gain control of it. So generally speaking, you get to swipe your opponent's unison if they happen to not have 2 cards to throw away, but it's only unisons with 4 or more markers for some reason. So this one's not incredibly good, but I mean, hey, the biggest thing I think for this one shows is that okay, they're willing to give us more unison interaction. And I think that's what we'll see, right? Zamasu, when it was first printed, obviously got eroded, but was just showcasing that we're finally getting to a point where we're ready to dabble with like hard removal for unisons, and this just kind of goes down that rabbit hole of giving us more ways to deal with them. Ish.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Arte's book though, but
yeah, pretty much. And I mean, for what it's worth, all of these SRs, the Toa and the Poutine, these are the bodies that they get swapped into. So there is that.
I mean, so when I first saw swap, I was like, swap, yay! And then my brain was like, wait, is this Goku's lineage on release swap? Or is this like? And then it was Goku's lineage on release swap more than it was necessarily Burly BR on release.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like a bit more utility based than OG lineage, but about as playable as OG lineage. So like not really.
The duality of man.
To round out, we have Demon God Poutine Umbral Might, 3-cost 15k blocker, Dark Overwhelm 3 for 1 of any color, which is cool. Auto, when this card's played, you get to play a Demon Realm Soldier token, which is a 5k with 5k combo. And then activate battle. Once per turn, you get to choose one of your tokens and remove it from the game. It has to be a Demon Realm token. And then you get to draw a card and then switch the card to active mode and it gains 10k for the battle. So basically turning Poutine into a double blocker. It's actually not bad. It's pretty good value. Dark Overwhelm for 1 isn't bad. I don't know if you're going to be sacrificing your Overwhelm to be able to do this, but some decks will actually utilize this. Like I could see some decks wanting to run a couple of these.
I mean,
like not the black decks that are seeing play right now, but like black decks that don't see play.
It's kind of. So it's weird for me because black is a very polarizing color. It often happens in this game where they'll release a color and you'll clearly be able to pick the better archetype. But I hate when we get the heavy splits, like the Broly BR Gogeta BR splits. And I feel like black this time is like that.
Yeah. Like oddly enough, this is the archetype that got 3 SRs. Some of these archetypes feeling like old school Invoker, by the way, having 3-4 SRs per archetype, it feels wild to me. Like the SR distribution is insane. But for what it's worth, not all SRs are printed equally. And like you said, like these 2 archetypes feel completely night and day. Like this feels like another like for fun deck, whereas like even though Trunks, I will say, is supplemented by the fact that black is just strong already out of the box. So like adding a pretty good leader to like a really good set of cards really doesn't change all that much. But like but the Trunks stuff plays infinitely better than like this Demon God stuff for sure.
It hurts.
Now oddly enough, I think the most exciting cards out of black are 2 commons actually. So first off, we have Finn, Evolutionary Premonition, which is a 2-cost 2 specified black 5k Finn with Deflect Barrier. When it's played, you get to draw a card, and then activate main once per turn. You get Spirit Boost to 1 with a black Unison card with this card costs 2 or more. And if you have 4 or more energy, you get to choose 1 black Finn card with an energy cost of 8 in your hand and play it on top of this card, effectively giving the Finn deck a way more suitable way to actually get into their boss monster. I think this card's super solid for the deck in terms of like supporting. Not that Finn was all that playable, and Finn already kind of lives in that realm of like anti-meta deck just because of how focused it is on your opponent having board presence. But nevertheless, I mean, this is a great way to add support to an archetype without like having to print like a million cards for it.
See, yes, I definitely agree with you there, but I also remember looking over, was it not Cross Spirits, but Sand Showdown, and feeling that the Finn archetype was like 3 cards too short to be called an archetype. So I'm happy they're giving it support now, but I kind of feel like there was no reason why Finn shouldn't have had like 3 more, like 2 more battle cards and like an extra or something. Like it was just so weird. Like you could max out on every Finn card that they put in there and you'd still be short 20 cards. Like not counting super combos and normal negates. But I am happy. This card is good. I just don't know why it wasn't released with the last set.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a little
fair.
nitpick.
Yeah, because like what was printed last set for black? We got Finn, and like we didn't get a second black archetype, right? It was something like that.
It was
Um,
just Finn, and Finn got his leader card. He got his SR, which nuked the field. He got the Unison Sucker. He got the big quote unquote boss card that was not an SR, and then he got like a Toa and a Dabura,
yeah,
and then a counter card that like sucked up stuff or something like that.
but like, what did we get instead of the black cards, right? Because that's a lot of black cards that don't exist.
Last
I
set.
guess I guess all the other colors just kind of got a bit more support. They got more
It
cards.
might have been. It might have been.
Yeah,
You know
now that I
what? No,
think
no, no.
about it.
We're taking it. We're taking it. I have a because I'm always doing research, my guys. I almost always have the card open. Multiple tabs, in fact. I'm just always looking at this crap. So let's go to Sand Showdown and see.
Yeah, because I do remember that Finn was basically standalone, but like I can't remember what the, well, I mean, if anything, that just goes to show about the memorability of Saiyan Showdown as a set. But
I mean, you're not wrong. See, okay, so it had the same amount of cards because literally, I'm looking at Cross Spirits and Sand Showdown. They both have 9 tabs, but you're looking at because Black had them. That's that looks so funky. I'm sorry. I'm looking at this right now, and Black has barely. Oh, it's because Black continued the Shadow
right,
Xeno.
okay, yeah, yeah. So they got Shadow Dragon support. That's it. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Literally
yeah.
just a bunch of Shadow Dragons cards, and then like 10 cards.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that what it was. Basically, Finn got like shafted just by them having to wrap up the Shadow Dragon stuff. Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I'm counting this right now. Hold on. A leader card, a Unison, a Dabura that wasn't really cool to play, a Toa, another Toa, and then you have Finn the All Absorbing. That is 7. Oh, okay, and the SR. They got 8 cards. Literally, Finn got 8 cards.
Yeah. So what's that? 8 times 4. That's what 48 or something like that. Am I just bad
Yeah.
at math? Yeah.
No, no,
So
no. No, that's 8. Yeah, they just have 8 cards. And then
yeah.
what? Or sorry, what was the last part?
Well, I
I'm
was just wondering if I was bad at. But
just
basically, yeah,
flabbergasted.
you could max out every single card and not have like a proper deck.
Correct. Correct.
Ouch. Yikes. Um. So yeah, so I mean, good for the Finn players. You know, all 2 of you. I'm sure you're very excited about the card being released, and I hope you guys do. And I hope you guys enjoy the support. I think it's a nice piece for it's a nice bone to be tossed. But funny enough, the most
Loki.
exciting card that came out for Black in this set, I think, is a common. It is Support of the Dark Empire, and now Black finally has its reinforcement negate. I know this is probably the most exciting because compared to every other Black SR, which gets about 15 to 20 likes on the official Facebook posts, this one, the morning I woke up, had 70 likes and reactions to it.
My only qualm is that my beautiful baby gorilla boy, D-Bro, did not live long enough to see the day where he could have a free blocker in this game. Oh, my guy. My guy. He would have loved this. If Zeno Harambe was still with us this day, he would have loved this.
Yeah,
But
so for
I
the guys
believe,
who are. Uh-huh.
I was just going to say, I believe we all just owe it to our beautiful hairy boy to play this card in his absence as much
Uh,
as possible.
Absolutely. So, you guys who don't know the reinforcement style negate cards. Basically, if you had 5 life or less, you can take a life instead of paying their costs. It negates the attack, and then it'll play a 5k blocker. Some of them have combo power, some of them don't. This one actually has combo power, which means that if you don't end up using the blocker, actually, then you just have free combo in your next turn, which is really super solid. So, every color got one except for black, because black has a tendency of being a second class citizen in a lot of ways. Which, like, I kind of get. Like, at first it wasn't a real color.
Demonetize the podcast. Nobody's gonna clip that.
But it's true. You guys don't even like black decks don't even have like the free unison counterplay.
Facts.
Yeah. So like, it's nice to see them. You know, mind you, a couple sets late, but bring black up to speed in terms of what the other colors get as far as like card cycles go, because usually card cycles are every color but black, and then black gets like something weird. So kind of bringing it in line, which I kind of get. You know, black didn't start its own official color, it then became its own official color, but black was the color that kind of did everything, but like in a weird way, which meant that, like, you know, it does hand destruction, but hand destruction to like warp, and it does board destruction, but like it to warp and all that kind of stuff. So so I understand why they feel a little bit like not as tempted to print cycles across all the colors, because of the way black generally works. But I think we're at a point now where black definitely deserves to be part of cycles like these, and the fact that I got the card means that we're taking a step in the right direction.
I agree with that. It's like, but yeah, like, just I agree with literally everything you just said, because just with black's color identity, shameless plug, go watch that video. I'm gonna put them in a playlist. I think it's actually really, but just looking at black's color identity, they have access to so many powerful effects for so, you know, much less cost than other colors would. But in exchange for that, they just hop on the board and they get their job done, and they generally hop off the board, or they don't have many forms of protection, not lots of barriers, sometimes deflect just to run it and gun it. So you always kind of have to play carefully from a design point, just thinking about how you make defense for black. Because the moment black's defense gets too strong, they now have the cheapest, most ferocious offense. And on top of that, they cannot be easily killed. So you always have to be kind of ready for that. So that is kind of why they don't have free unison counterplays. I mean, crap, the deck is mostly free. You are playing secret identities for free. You're playing things like Mira and Champa. Like, Mira and Champa is swinging for over 100,000 double strike for 2 energy. Like, you have some of the stupidest plays for cheap, provided they don't stay for a second chance to gut your opponent. So you got to be sure about how you give them defense. But I am glad we finally got to the point where we deserve a free blocker combo too.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, right? Like, imagine if this was around with Dark Broly, like, bro. Yeah. But yeah, those were the black cards. Those were the most impactful ones. Those were the SRs plus the couple of commons that like felt like a good shakeup to the color. And then we got the green reveals. And then the biggest thing with this, I'll say it off the bat, is that once again, green, and I don't know why they keep doing this to green, man. Although I will say this is like infinitely more playable than the green stuff got before. But again, green got stuck as being the like huge thematic color. So every single card in the archetype is based around the theme more so than the playability of the card game. Kicking us off with like Beerus and Champa and their battle on the Nameless Planet to see which universe gets to use the Super Dragon Balls. I mean, bro. I guess yeah, so just to kick us off, I guess I'll read the leaders and then we can talk about it a little, and then we'll talk about the rest of the cards. So we got Beerus, which is a 15k unawakened leader, which is huge. Until you read the first line of text that says permanent, you start the game with 4 life.
Yo.
Activate main, switch this card to rest mode, draw a card. Additionally, if you have no battle cards in play, choose up to 1 green Universe 7 card when it costs 2 or less in your hand and play it. And, you know, the more we start to see the Universe 7 2 cost or less, like, it's actually not bad. Like, it starts off your tempo pretty good. Awaken when your life is at 3 or less, so when you take a singular point of damage, you now get to awaken by drawing 2 cards, switching 1 energy active mode, and then flipping the card over, at which point we have Beerus, victory at all costs. A 20k Awakened Leader with the auto that when he attacks, you get to draw a card. And then again, if you don't have a battle card in play, you get to play Universe 7 with 2 or less. And the auto once returns Spirit Boost for 1. When one of your battle cards attacks and KOs an opponent's battle card, which is the entire point of the deck, it combos with the field card we'll talk about in a moment. Your opponent chooses one card in their hand and discards it. Now, there's a lot of reflection points between Beerus and Champa in terms of like, if Beerus does something, Champa probably does it, but they get like a different result. So Beerus leans on a lot of hand destruction stuff, whereas Champa leans on a lot of tempo. So he gets to like restand. If we look at Champa, it's basically the same thing, except instead of Universe 6, you sub out Universe 7. So he rest modes to draw a card and then you get to play Universe 6. The difference are life totals. He starts with 5 life, and that again is thematic. Beerus brought 4 legitimate fighters to the tournament. Champa brought 5, which is kind of the idea there. And then Champa awakens at 2 life, which is, that is a heavy awakening. As someone who plays Red Yellow Baby, I'll tell you right now. But you get to draw 3 cards and then switch 1 energy to active mode. And then on his awakened side, again, 20k, victory at all cost, Champa. Same thing, swing, play a 6-drop, draw a card. The difference being that if your card KOs a card and you Spirit Boost, the chosen card gets to restand. So you get more tempo. But yeah, you think, do you think being a 15k and a 20k with the archetype the way it is warrants you starting at 4 and 5 life respectively, my good sir?
Okay, so here's the thing. Again, we already talked about this thematic ish, like the game, like the creators like to be thematic, and I actually had an entire conversation. Maybe I'll make this into a video or another topic point. Maybe I'll make a video with George on it on my channel talking about the design things. You know, we'll talk about that after this talk. But the point is, this is highly thematic. These are god cards, and gods don't need to transform. They just start off brawling, and if they need to kick it into a higher gear because they feel like you're stronger than that, they just simply start fighting a little harder. They don't transform. So that's why they start off at 15. They have access to their super combos. They're not digging into greater depths. They're just like, oh, okay, I guess I need to beat his ass a little harder then. And that's kind of cool, but it's kind of weird. There's a lot of small semantics that go into this sort of thing. One, people do note that you're starting off at 4 life, but you're also starting off at 15k. So all those little pokes that happen at the beginning of the game, oh, I played a 10k for an energy and it had a come into play effect, and I'm going to send it sideways because it's neutral. You either bleed a card or you go down on life. Okay, I'm going to swing with my leader, and he's at 10. So you're going to bleed a card or go down on life. I was going to swing regardless. These things don't affect these leaders, because unless you're willing to put a card into it yourself, which you're generally not that early into the game, you're going 5k less than this leader starts at. And even if you were to go in for a swing that you could do on turn 1 or turn 2, you're swinging with a 10k, maybe a 15k. And if you want to try to push it into their life, what happens when they just drop a super combo on you on turn 1 and you're like, oh, well,
yep,
that seems stupid. And then you get swung on by a random card that they played for free. And then after you get swung on and your creature dies because they can probably put more combo power behind it than you can, and then they tap an energy and they play a Super Saiyan Kaioken blue Goku, and swing into it's weird. It definitely is going to warrant testing. I'm going to see tomorrow morning spoilers and then do my green video. But the starting off at 4 life and starting off at 15k and then flipping to 20k, it definitely changes the math a lot. And I don't think people are giving that enough credit. They see the 4 life and they get scared. And there is a valid point to be scared, because that's 2 Champa swings with combo power behind it. But at the same point, decks do have negates. Now, granted, green is the king of having a negate that stops you from going wide, but not from going tall. But at the same time, there are negates, and there are cards they can be using, and there can be blockers. But at the main thing I'm saying is, when this card flips, it's a 20k. How would you like to swing on a blue leader that's always sensued? It would change up your math to a high degree. Cards that would normally force your opponent to go super combo plus 5k now are just super combos. And there's still cards we have yet to see. The deck could get some free blockers. I think the deck already might have gotten a blocker or 2. So there's just things, I think, that aren't being taken into consideration. We have seen a hit SR, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what we haven't seen I haven't seen a Frost Akaba. I haven't seen a Boda Magetta. there are still cards that Champa needs to be able to drop. And on our side for Piccolo, you've got, or for Beerus, you've got the Goku and Vegeta SRs, but now you've also got Goku and Vegeta 2 drops. Well, I think Goku 3 drop and a Vegeta 2 drop. You got a Majin Buu 2 drop. You've got you just got cards that are coming in, and so I kind of just feel like it's not necessarily fair quite yet until we see tomorrow's reveals. But even past that, the first 2 to 3 turns of the game, these leaders should be swinging and defending way above optimal levels just because of their base power and the fact that they have access to cards at lower life like super combos. So I think that it definitely changes the dynamic of how this works. And if I'm not mistaken, you swing and you cheat a card in. These cards can do things when they're KO'd. When they do KO other cards, you're able to bring in stronger cards. I just think that it's a little too early to immediately get scared about the 4 life. Let's just see how the format goes, especially seeing is that if you face aggro like black or red, it can seem a lot scarier, but there are a lot of mid-range decks in the format right now. Like Gogeta Zeno, this new Trunks deck, you have like red and all of its incarnations right now can be pretty aggro-y. But if you ever take this deck into a mid-range control format and you're just swinging for 15k, you're going to probably bully some things pretty hard at first. But I also don't see how the deck gains hand advantage, so you probably won't body Icarus out of the advantage game. So I don't know. There's so many factors. I'm ready to dive into it, though. Sorry for being so long-winded.
Yeah, nah, I mean, go in. And I think that's why I personally like Beerus more, because like you said, like you're not really out advantaging your opponent because you don't have life that go to hand in any specific way. So like I like that Beerus is kind of based around a little bit of hand destruction. Like the incidental hand destruction kind of helps kind of balance out the fact that you are playing a disadvantaged game and not being able to have as many cards as your opponent. But I think the benefit with these leaders also that I think people aren't exploring enough is that everyone's thinking mono green because everyone's thinking the Nameless Planet strategy. But I think you could play these like like you said, like you're basically a beamed leader on your awakened side. Now, what if you were playing blue green and then you just literally beam down top of that and now you're just 25k base with one beam, Like it's actually an absurd number. So I think there's a lot of room to explore. I think, like you said, it's normal to be scared. But I think people are tunnel visioning a little bit too much and don't, maybe see it for what it could be. I'm not gonna lie, like I like playing devil's advocate in this way. I'm still actually a little bit hands-offish on it. One, I'm not a green player, so it doesn't really matter to me. But two, it still feels a little scuffed to me, especially when we're talking about Xeno Gogeta, who is swinging with like 20-25Ks on turn 1. So like but again, super combos live on turn 1 kind of help mitigate that for sure. But especially like you're saying in a mid-range format, you could run the Nameless Planet, which is a 1-cost field card. Now this one you're actually gonna have to hard play, but there is like this and a battle card that plays it in your field directly, so you have 8 cards in your deck if you really want to run it. Which I actually recommend playing that 1-drop, because if not, it's kind of like a mini Broly Crown, which is kind of dope. It's a barrier field card, so it's sticking around once it hits the board. Auto, once per turn, if your leader card is a green Beerus or green Champa card, at the end of a battle where one of your green battle cards attacks and KOs an opponent's battle card, place that card under the field card from your opponent's drop area. Now, we also got confirmation from Fash, which is basically the Bandai head judge, that if you the procs for the ability to activate is you need to have an attack card and the card needs to get KO'd. So if you have cards, and we'll see them in ESRs later, that attack into a card and then have an auto that say, like if you're attacking a battle card, KO that card, that will count towards this. Now, it is once per turn, which is relevant. Yeah, which is relevant because there is an activate main that there are if there are 5 cards owned by your opponent under this card, you win the game. So it means that there's an alt win con with the deck, but it's only live from turn 6 onwards, assuming that you got this down on turn 1. And then it also has an auto where if your leader card is a green Beerus or Champa, you get to switch it to rest mode. And when your opponent attacks, you get to choose one of your green battle cards in rest mode and make it swing that instead. So it's like extra defense on that front. But it's an alt win con, which is kind of cool. It's very hard to get. But the fact that the ruling works the way it does make it easier. I see people pulling out the Bond Piccolo again that pops a card and draws a card on activate battle. That's something that works really well with the strategy. Among other things.
There's straight up Goku in the set that just like does it. Like, yeah. Like I'm trying to see this right now. Where are you at though? I think it's the 3-drop.
It's
Oh, it's
there's the
active.
4-drop SR. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to see these guys. I see barrier, they're critical, yeah, whatever one's credit, blah 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 blah. Yeah. So,
um
yeah.
Yeah, so and for what's notable, this as far as this archetype goes, Universe 7 is the one that got the 3 SRs. So if we're going to see kind of like what they're doing with the other colors, where one archetype gets 3 SRs and the other one gets 1, then that means Universe 6 is probably getting a singular SR as far as their side of things goes. But the Universe 7 ones are super solid for Beerus. You have SSB Kyoken Son Goku, Might's Calling, 4 cost, 3 specified green with Double Strike. Auto limit 1 for 1 green if your lead guard's green and this card is in your combo area. When one of your green battle card attacks and kills an opponent's battle card, you get to play from combo area. So basically, if you do what this deck's trying to do with the field card, you combo with him and then you get to play him for 1, and for 1 you get a 20k double striker. And then he has the auto that when he attacks, you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it, which means again you would have an attack card and you KO the card, so it would work towards the strategy just from the swing. Or your opponent chooses one card in their hand and discards it. I really like this aspect because it means that if your opponent's trying to play around you by not playing battle cards, then you punish them for basically just being a Zamasu. Not as, indestructible as Zamasu, but at least within archetype, it forces your opponent to have to deal with you in one way or another.
Yeah. I mean, this card, first off, it's if it gets an SPR, it's going to be beautiful. I already know Kaioken Super Saiyan Blue. The Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken definitely needs a freaking SPR. But no, this card is great. It gets dropped for 1. And it's just like, again, it triggers the rest of the archetype. As long as they don't remove this, and granted, being a 4 cost and being a 20k, there are many ways for this guy to go. But he also only comes out for 1 energy, and so I can't get mad at it. It's an easy come, easy go kind of card. But the thing is, between win condition and the fact that you'll find that looking at this archetype, there's a whole lot of essential board control with a little hand control mixed in too. It's interesting. It's very interesting, but I'll just sit back and let you talk about this.
Yeah, so like that's the thing. Like we're saying, there's a Goku that does it. A Vegeta basically does the same thing. Where at the end of battle, in which this card's using a combo from your hand, you play from your drop. The difference here being that like there's no stipulation that you need to KO one of your opponent's battle cards, but he does cost 2 to combo, but he's a 10k and he's a dual attacker. And auto once per turn, when he attacks, you get to KO an opponent's battle card. Your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and discards. So like you said again, board control mixed in with hand destruction, which kind of gives it fun. Like I like in a mid-range format, you're basically forcing your opponent to have to deal with your board, or if not, you're probably going to win the long game by being able to deal with their like 1 or 2 odd battle cards every single turn. So it's like kind of like a do if you do, do if you do if you don't. And then finally to round it out, we have Hit Assassin's Strike, which is the Universe 6 counterpart, which is really good. He's also generic. Any deck could actually play him, funny enough. So even the Universe 7 deck can play this one, oddly enough. Again, 4 cost, 3 green, barrier, dual attack, auto, 2 green. If your leading card is green, your opponent has 2 or more energy, and this card's in your combo area. When one of your green battle cards attacks and kills an opponent's battle card, you get to play from your combo area. Then he has an auto limit 1 if this card's in rest mode. When your opponent attacks, they may choose 2 cards in their hand and discard them. If they don't, negate the attack, and then your opponent can't attack for the rest of the turn. So basically, forcing your opponent into once per turn topo is like really gross. And it's just a really good card. Again, the Universe 7 deck can run this, which kind of feels cheeky that it feels like, the Universe 7 stuff definitely works better. Well, they can all technically work with the green deck. So I guess either green deck. So I guess it's fine. But Hit is definitely the standout card here. I think it does probably the most. Then it would be Goku. Then it would be Vegeta. But these all work with any green leader for what it's worth. It doesn't necessarily have to be this archetype, which is kind of nice. I think adding more cards to the green card pool definitely helps across the board, especially with how green has felt the last couple of sets. So these cards are good. I think they help the archetype. I think generically they're good, and some decks are really going to want to use Hit. And even then, I could see maybe some decks, depending on what they're trying to do, maybe include Goku, because like he's basically the King Piccolo, right? 1 cost, 20k double striker. Mind you, there's a little bit more work with this deck than there are other decks that make it work, but nevertheless, it's cheap, it's efficient, and it does what it needs to do. So I think card pool wise, green is looking pretty okay. Like we've said, the leader's kind of looking, I think there's more to them than initially, on both sides. I don't think we can overestimate them. I don't think we can underestimate them either. So I think we're kind of just scoping out, waiting out to see what the rest of the green pool is going to be with tomorrow's reveals, and then we'll see. It'll be interesting. And if anything, I'm not a green player, but Beerus makes me maybe want to look into it just as an interesting way to build green. So I don't know if this is what I mean, I'm fairly certain this is not what green has been asking for the last few sets. And I do still find it really funny that thematically it feels like green's being punished for some reason, but nevertheless, I think there's more to it. So I'm looking forward to brewing at least.
Yeah, like just it's interesting. I do want to see what we get tomorrow. I did you look at the referee card? That card is infinitely helpful.
Yeah, so that was the card I was talking about. So for our listeners, it's a one cost that comes on board and has an activate main that sends itself to the drop. And then you either get to play the field card from your deck, which is like super consistent, so you could have 8 copies of the field card, or you could look at your opponent's hand and take a 3 cost or less and send it to the drop. That card's actually nuts.
Oh no, wait, like battle card injury cost of 3 and play it. And it's just like I wish it played it rested. I really wish it played it rested.
Oh, does it play it? Okay, then I missed it.
Yeah,
okay.
But some of that stuff is funny though. Like just imagine that awkward moment where you're like, play this card, put this guy in the grave to play your super combo. Then you just swing with Beerus at the leader and then play one of your dudes. And then you just like, your super combo has no barrier. It's at 5k and it's going to get swung on now. You're just sitting there salty as shit because you just lost your super combo to some BS phony combo.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. I thought it went to drop, but Valier is still kind of all right depending on the card. Like you said, it deals with like super combos depending on the card. I will say though, what I feel like this archetype really needed, but it's a little bit tough because this is definitely Red's wheelhouse more than Green, is a way to attack actives. I think that's what this deck really needed to be set itself apart from like a deck that might be tier 2.5 to something that could actually be like super viable.
Well. Have you seen today's spoilers?
I know that we got a bunch of 2-drops that basically say like if you attack like non-barrier cards or whatever.
Yeah, so like they can attack as long as it doesn't have barrier, they can attack it in active mode.
Yeah.
So it's like you will be able to start swinging on some things. I feel like I remember why I was thinking they put that barrier stipulation on there, but I just kind of wish it wasn't on there because screw cards like Poutine.
Well, I think it's specifically because of cards like Poutine or like the silver bullets. I think they kind of just don't want you to have like to punish you for playing bullets in your deck, I think is what it is, because they like all the good ones have barrier, maybe.
Fair. That is fair.
Or
but I'm thinking,
yeah,
we have Goku and Vegeta and Piccolo and Majin Buu and Monaka all situated here, so I'm kind of wondering, like, if Green gets a 4th SR, I can't see it not being Kaba.
I mean, I could see it. I'd be down for 2-2 split, right? Because from the feels of it, it feels like every color is getting like 4 SRs, give or take.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm fine with we have 1 for Universe 6 and then 2 for Universe 7. It'd be dope if Kaba showed up. That'd be kind of dope, yeah.
And I don't know what Kaba would do, but I feel like it's impossible that Boda and Magetta, one of them is a blocker. One of them has to be a blocker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it not being a blocker, but the question is because they both have to have 2-drops that come into play, so we'll probably get some frost that impacts the board somehow, maybe some more destruction. I can see us getting a Boda and Magetta blocker. Now my question here though, it's like this arena says when people attack, let's see, your blah blah, your opponent. When your opponent attacks, choose one of your green battle cards and rest mode of the same universe special tree. Switch target. Attack target. Oh, wait a second. Did we both miss that effect, or am I just blanking? I didn't realize the field card had that auto.
Yeah. It was the last thing I said. I kind of like dunked. I kind of dunked it in. But yeah, basically you can force them to swing into something else.
All right, that changes so much though. Like, oh, you're getting at this 4 life? This 4 life? Nah, last song on this instead, bro.
Yeah. Well, once per turn, you basically get a free negate, quote unquote, if you have like a battle card on board.
Yeah, I was really hoping that maybe Revenge, like if Revenge could proc this, it would be so cute if
It
maybe Beer
used
or
to.
the one.
It
Yeah,
used to work that way.
one that's like, I'm gonna block a bunch of shit, but you're gonna get revenged, and then they both added up to the total. But I mean, it's too early to tell. We still don't even have Champa's cards. Champa is missing at
Yeah,
least by this measurement. Champa's missing
like six
one, two,
cards.
yeah, three, four, five battle cards minimum.
Yeah.
We'll still
Um,
get to see what's going on.
Yep, exactly. And just to round out like the other Universe 7 stuff, like Chris had already basically insinuated, there are 3 drops and 2 drops that have keywords like double strike and critical and all that. And then they say that if your opponent has no battle cards, they get a buff. So like Goku gets 5k in critical, Vegeta gains double strike, and then they can attack actives as long as they don't have barrier, which is kind of weird, but that's fine. Um, and then for the 2 drops, if they get KO'd, which is kind of like I think what they're going for with the forcing your opponent to attack into it. So you're
Mhm.
forcing your opponent to attack into the 2 drops, and then you can pay 1 to go into one of the 3 drops. So that's basically how you're forcing your opponent to have to force your opponent to interact with you, which is kind of nice. Like typically archetypes like these, why they've struggled is specifically because your opponent can always play around what your deck is trying to do. Shumen Salsa, for example, is a deck that struggled around this because it was incredibly easy to play around what Shumen Salsa was trying to do. So like recognizing that and having the deck to force its strategy onto your opponent makes it hugely more viable. So the fact that you can force your opponent to attack into your battle cards, force them to KO them, and then force them to have to interact with what your deck's trying to do definitely helps out with the archetype. Maybe not at the end of the day being competitive via the main archetype, but like it does something. So
Fair. Nothing feels worse than like having a whole strategy and being like, haha, Yugi boy, like the only way you can go through here is by swinging on my creatures. And when you swing on my creatures, they only go stronger. And your opponent just looks at you and they're just like, that, that, uh, no. And then they just swing at your face and you're like, oh, well, or that works
yeah,
too.
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying against Beerus, full power invoker feeling real kind of nice.
You're just sitting there like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Illegal, like, but like, yeah, so like, you can literally just be like, yeah, you're gonna swing on this. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care what and you're gonna swing on this.
Um, and then the last card, which is incredibly thematic, and I'm really happy they did this, is Monaka Universe 7's Ace. A one
Just
drop green
hilarious.
card. When the card's played, it draws a card. At the end of battle in which this card attacked a hit card in your opponent's battle area, you get to KO that card. And he's got 1 power.
Can you imagine your opponent having the hit SR there and being like, there's no way I can lose this game. I am solid. And your opponent's just like, the moment I sided against this deck, I knew. And they just play this. Like, can you imagine losing on stream to Manaka? Like, that would you just quit the game.
I mean, I see people taking on the challenge kind of like they did with photo where it's just
Oh,
like
you just put one in your deck just to be.
just to if the opportunity ever presents itself. I'm just saying 2 cards and your opponent has to combo out of the attack.
I mean, that's facts. I think photo is still kind of like super ballsy. Like, I think the ultimate, and I haven't seen it happen yet because people will play it for fun. Will you scoop? No. Or somebody will be like, like, yeah, I was about to lose anyway. But I feel like it would actually be such a huge, big baller flex to look at your hand, understand that you most likely have game, and then just give your opponent the first chance to not get humiliated. Be like,
uh,
commemorative play, commemorative photo. And they're just like, are you stupid? And you're just like, all right, so you have chosen death, and then just waltz this dude to 0 life. Like, that shit would be so broken.
yeah, like I've always said like I've actually seen Commander Photo being taken in like first or second turn of the game just because like people were having fun with it and it was on stream. But like I always try and include one in my green decks just to be able to be like because I want to be in a position to bargain with my opponent. Like we're turn 5, turn 6. You have like 2 cards in hand. I have the board advantage, and I start my turn off by playing Commander Photo. I'm like, look, you can either respect me right now and just end it here, or I'm about to destroy you.
Freaking, oh my gosh, Boondocks Booty Warrior vibes. Like, or we can do this the hard way. The choice is yours. So, like,
Oh God. Uh, but yeah, that was it in terms of Sex 16 black and green reveals. We are getting probably most, if not the rest of the green reveals tomorrow. So like Chris was saying, definitely check out his YouTube video for that because the man does fantastic coverage of the reveals. But before we jump on over to the SC mailbag, we did get some new info about the new Dragon Ball movie, Dragon Ball Superhero, right? If I'm not mistaken.
look,
And
I don't know. That name is kind of wild. It is what it is.
yeah, but Chris was ever so excited about it. So Chris, how about you let us know the new information that dropped about this movie?
Look, it's short, it's sweet. All you need to know is it was confirmed by the pretty much second and like the top Toei dog. Because there's like three people that generally work on Dragon Ball Super. There is Toriyama, of course, who is the creator. There is the dude at Shueisha that pretty much since like Dragon Ball has been the head of the anime department. And now there's Toriataru who makes the manga. But the head of the Dragon Ball room in Shueisha has revealed that Gohan is not just going to be a focal point of the movie, he is going to be the main character of Dragon Ball superhero, which probably means that Goku and Vegeta are going to be off world for most of this, or there's going to be some sort of factor that neutralizes them in the plot. And it also means that Pan's not going to be the main character. She's probably going to get kidnapped. So now I'm going to assume that Goku, Vegeta, and Broly are training somewhere. Pan gets kidnapped, and it's up to Gohan to just go save his daughter. But in terms of that, I still don't think it's outlandish to think that there might be some new form or his new level of power that doesn't follow his father's or Vegeta's, because you don't sell cards, gotcha units, toys, and mobs and DLC off of Super Saiyan 2 again. Like, you don't, that's not how it works. So I'm assuming that they're going to give him something new because that's how all this stuff moves.
I mean, okay, first off, chill dog. Like Gohan struggles to go Super Saiyan 1. We don't even know if he can do Super Saiyan 2 anymore. Like
That was
respect.
Tracksuit Gohan. Okay, that was Tracksuit Gohan, and that made no sense. They made him struggle to go into a form he wasn't even supposed to be able to go into anymore. I don't even understand.
So but like I was actually just thinking about that as you were explaining it. Like, yeah, I was actually just thinking, you know what, this I don't think they've ever done something like as intense of like these new movies or anything like that where they haven't introduced a new form. So maybe it is, time for Gohan to get a new form. I mean, at least he gets his time to shine. Like, he was promised to basically be the prodigy boy after the Cell Saga, and then they realized Goku makes too much money, and then they brought him back. So like, maybe
Like,
this is a shot.
it's super sad. Like, a little history lesson for everybody. Like, tiny, tiny, tiny history lesson. Akira Toriyama is a gag author. Like, his first work wasn't Dragon Ball Z. You were looking at more things like Dr. Slump, which is a comedy. You're looking at things like Dragon Ball, which is essentially a martial arts comedy. Like, there were more funny pages in Dragon Ball than there were up until like halfway through. Like, it all got real when Krillin got his neck snapped for a Dragon Ball by Tambourine. But before that,
Yeah.
before that, there was a lot more gag than there was actual like seriousness. And so one thing that was kind of wild was that while Gohan became like the brand new main character, they literally got Goku out the way. They gave Gohan the new form. They had him becoming the protector of Earth. He surpassed Goku's rival. Literally, they gave all of Goku's like just clout to Gohan in that moment. But then when they came back, Toriyama kind of took it way back to formula. He had silly costumes in Great Sandman. He had slice of life episodes. He had Gohan jumping 18 feet into the air to catch a fly ball. Like, it was very much so Dragon Ball type writing. But I think by then, like, fans had just already been accustomed to Dragon Ball Z. They didn't give a crap about whether Gohan was getting hit on by like three girls at the same time when he probably had no interest in females whatsoever. They wanted Goku beating the crap out of people, and so things changed like really really quick. But it's just kind of funny because people kind of look at that little mini arc as like a divergence away from what Dragon Ball was, and I was like, actually, that was a strict return to formula. We just got Dragon Ball Z first, so you wouldn't know that. Like,
Mm.
just me being quirky, nerdy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, probably the biggest chance of Gohan finally getting a secret rare. Even though I argue with Chris all the time that he's already been on a couple of secret rares, but like, nevertheless.
Get out! Been on a secret rare.
He's been on two.
How dare you? How dare you? Dude, that secret rare and Doken gave him the same treatment. He's literally in the same right side corner, barely on the card.
Yeah, he's
What
like was he's like Wazowski in that photo where it's like, yo.
so awful. What was the other one? You have here. You have the oh, and then he's on Vermilion.
Yeah.
Freaking nah, man. And if we get a secret rare from the movie, no doubt it's him and Pan. It's not just him; it's him and Pan. There's no way they're not going to end this like battle on like some father daughter Masenko.
Yeah, you never
Like,
know. If they reveal a new form, instead of giving the new form like an SR, they might just like jump right to giving his new form a secret rare.
oh, that's fair. I don't know. I feel like with this thing, Pan's training, and Pan probably sees her dad as a nerd. So I'm assuming that this movie is gonna be the first time she finds out that her dad doesn't slap, he doesn't bang, he fucks. Like she's gonna be sitting here like grandpa, and then like Gohan's just gonna come through and be like, bro, you unhand my daughter, or like I'm snapping next. And they're just like, you ain't got it like that. And Piccolo's gonna be on the ground like, no, seriously, 11-year-old Gohan had serious mental issues. Please let go of his daughter. And then like it's just about to go down. Like Red Ribbon Army's gonna lose their entire establishment to yet another member of the Sun family. And at the end, you're gonna have some weird moment where Pan realizes that her dad is pretty cool, wants to step up and be a hero like him, not like just like her grandfather. And then she's gonna fire off a Masenko next to her father and her father, or Kamehameha, because that's just the namesake. Unless you want to have 3 generations and have Piccolo, Gohan, and Pan hit the Masenko at the same time for instant.
Gohan and his dad. That's a true family Masenko, yo. She.
For real. Tri-generation Masenko, huh? Which, by the way, guys, I just have to like also because it just reminds me of this argument with like Frank from the VSA. All of Piccolo's moves, they sound weird here, but that's because there were translation issues. Like you couldn't market a show to kids. Like anytime there were like cartoons back then, they were really specific about moves that had like angel or god or demon in them. That's why like Kami is always referred to like Kami, but Kami does kind of just mean god, and there's like a whole lot of things. But all of Piccolo's moves are like explosive demon murder wave and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it kills me knowing that Gohan was like 6 years old or 7 years old on planet Namek screaming like explosive murder destruction wave, destroying, like erasing Frieza Force henchmen, like committing murder in droves, screaming. I'm just like, bro.
Oh my god.
Tell me he wasn't about that life.
Hey yo. But yeah, so lots to look forward to on that front. I mean, they did it with the last time they did Battle Hour. So hopefully this time with Battle Hour, when we get more announcements on that front, we get some more sneak teases. Also, I know we mentioned it last time, but did they ever end up hitting their like Twitter goals about getting guys like your chronos and your removals and stuff like that?
I think we got it. I'm pretty sure we got it.
Yeah. You see, I don't remember what they are when I can't read off of the nice chart that was in front of me the first time around.
In-game currency, and there are really cool units coming out. They made a freaking Gogeta that has this amazing freaking inked out cutscene of fusing. It's a good time to be playing the game, and there's a lot of free stuff. But gotchas do try to capitalize on like holidays because people will be getting holiday money. So they want to make sure they can get into your pockets.
Yeah. So with that said, we'll go ahead and jump into the SC mailbag. Of course, if you guys have any questions for the show, for myself or for Chris, feel free to jump into my Discord channel. There is a category there dedicated to asking questions there. Otherwise, you're welcome to @ myself or Chris on Twitter with the hashtag SC mailbag, and we'll get to your question on air. A couple of questions, of course, Getum always having a question for us, but this time it's a legitimate question. Any advice you would give to players jumping into the game? Fundamentals to master, decks to play, habits to get into. I know I have my take on this, but I'll let yourself have the first crack at it if you want, Chris.
So any habits or tips that a new player could get down to becoming better at the game?
Yeah.
I say this about any TCG. Any TCG, okay? There are like so many people get on tilt because of the way they lose. But there's always more to gain in terms of losing, and I feel like an experience than winning. Like you can win, you can play perfectly and win, but sometimes you can win because your opponent drew badly. Sometimes you can win because, you drew godly. There are many circumstances that can be variance based for winning and losing, but 9 times out of 10, there are specific reasons you lost. And if you pay attention to why you lost instead of just the fact that you lost, you have so many more ways to grow as a player because a mistake you won't make again is just one less way you can lose the same way. So I feel like paying attention to your shortcomings within healthy boundaries, because I definitely don't do that within healthy boundaries. I'd be dwelling on that crap way too much, and that's not good. But within healthy boundaries, I feel like that's just the best way that you can learn. So that's one. We should back and forth this like tennis.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I think, like Dragon Ball happens to just be one of those games where it's incredibly, like it. Not only do all my wins feel earned, but all my losses feel earned as well. And like, while yeah, it's frustrating to lose, I think that's what I like most about the game. That I know that like probably like 8 times out of 10, like it was actually my fault that I lost. So the game very much does lend itself to, if you learn from your mistakes and you don't make them again, odds are you will see success. When you end up facing up the matchup again. And that's like one of the big things for me. I think if I had to say like, hey, you want to master the game, first off, the one thing I always tell people is play some goat format. Not because I think goat format's good. I actually think goat format's pretty trash. But and for those guys who don't know, goat format in Dragon Ball is essentially playing everything before set 3. So you play set 2 plus the villains expansion pack, which gives you overall. That format is basically hand advantage the format. You like some of the best cards in the game are like in that format are like energy boosted Boo, which is like a 1-cost blue card that draws a card when it comes on board. And it is legitimately like a 4 of in like so many decks because the game is just like the amount of games that you win and lose by 5 or 10k are insane because in that version of the game you don't have archetypes that carry everything, right? You don't have your Gogeta Xenos that on turn 1 allow you to pump out 25k double strikes. Instead, you're basically playing this game of advantage where you're poking your opponent, they're poking you, you're gauging Awaken, and you're basically like the entire game is based around how well do you combo. And I think playing that extreme version of hand control, like hand advantage is the only thing that matters 9 times out of 10, really helps you at becoming better at comboing. So something that I've always told players is that if you want to get better at comboing, you want to get better at hand advantage. Specifically, how do I give my opponent less cards? How do I have more cards? How do I make sure that I'm able to punch in for game here? How do I know if it's worth defending or not? I think playing GOAT format is a fantastic tool that you can use to grow your ability to be able to defend yourself, to be aggressive, and to just overall help one of the fundamentals that the game has to offer.
I definitely agree. I'm not trying to put down anybody that joined the game later, but I feel like more times than not, people that joined the game after set 3 don't understand the finer intricacies of applying pressure through just specific numbers. You know maybe what you should pressure, but when you face somebody that does have that intimate knowledge, you'll get a couple of exchanges in and then realize, whoa, why am I bleeding a hand? And it feels like they aren't. And 9 times out of 10, it's because while they are used to the current power creep, they also did understand that with the 3 swings they had, these were the exact 3 numbers they needed to push through. Looking at your grave, looking at the cards they know you searched, looking at how many super combos are available, these are the exact 3 numbers they needed to hit you with to make sure that no matter what the exchange, you were always dropping 2 cards, if not a super combo. And that's just kind of how it is. So, like, it's just, I feel like it is a fundamental skill to learn. And I think that's like really, really good. You will be sad though, because if you ever get used to playing in that realm and then you get back to sometimes just getting bursted out in like one ridiculously strong turn, depending on the deck, yeah, that can be sad. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, pretty much. um, And I guess the last thing, like what decks to play, like, I mean, play whatever deck you want. Usually, if you're a new player, I'll say play aggro. Because when you're playing aggro, one, you can just sneak wins against other decks at Fumble, which is always nice. Winning early on in your career as a card player helps a lot in making you feel motivated to want to keep playing for a lot of players who are maybe a bit less competitive. But secondly, aggro decks force every step of the game. You're playing cards, which means you're creating counter windows for your opponent to interact, so you're learning how to deal with counter windows. You're going into combat, which means you're dealing with the combo step, and you're forcing the game to progress forward. So like I would never recommend a new player to play like Invoker, because you're playing the game so not the way it's meant to be played from like a structural standpoint, that it would be a terrible learning tool, because you're learning a bunch of habits that are very specific to a way one strategy plays. Whereas I think the tips and tricks and tools you learn playing aggressively, so like any starter deck like Red Vegeta or Vegex or whatever, are really good at, you know, serving that front, force you to play every phase of the game, which forces you to learn them better. And I think the more you're exposed to those, then the better it is.
I agree. I agree. The other thing I would say is just tips to becoming a better player. I would honestly just, this is again more TCG stuff. Um, we have so many tools, and I know some people don't like Untap, and I know lots of people don't necessarily just have the cash or the funds to just have every deck maxed out. However, you, with things like Untap, it's always good to just like, when I'm trying to get ready for a format, and I haven't done this admittedly in a very long time for Dragon Ball Super, that's why I suck. But um, with Yu-Gi-Oh, when I was getting ready for tournaments, I would put every deck that was considered meta, and even some of the top road contenders, on like Dueling Network. And once I'm done getting my reps in for the deck that I'm practicing with, I run reps with the other decks, because there's always angles that you don't see. You could play a deck so many times and understand how it plays through that, but you're going to generally get that understanding a little quicker when you play the deck from the other angle. There are going to be plays where you think that, okay, you play the deck a couple times and you see them play a certain way, and you're like, oh, well, that's weird. I don't know why they're doing that. Their hand must just suck. But you play that deck and you play it in and out, and you learn its intricacies, and then you learn that that play that you just thought was a bad hand necessarily wasn't a bad hand. They might have just been missing a specific piece. They were guiding themselves towards a play, but you were maybe 2 turns away from getting blown out on a massive exchange. But you don't know that setup, because you don't know how that deck works from the pilot side. So if you're ever trying to get grounded and understand the format, play all the decks that come to the table, because you best know how to take a deck apart when you've put it together. And that's like just something I found that always does really, really well when I'm playing competitive TCGs.
Yeah, actually, that was actually going to be my last piece of advice. Know your matchups. And know your matchups works both ways. First, make sure you actually understand what decks are supposed to do, what they're trying to do, and even if you don't get reps in, at least you understand like, okay, Gogeta Xeno like turbos out like 25k double strikes or whatever. But my advice is 100% of the time, if you have the time to dedicate to it, play the other decks. Because like Chris was saying, not only do you now understand what the deck is trying to do and why your opponents who are playing the deck might end up be doing a thing or two, but what you also realize is where the pain points of the deck are. So as you tested it versus other opponents, you start to realize as the pilot of the deck, which situations your opponent's putting you in that are making you feel uncomfortable. Which means that for you now, every time you play against a deck moving forward, you have a deep knowledge of what, like, your opponent now is feeling pressed. Even though, like, from a hand advantage standpoint, from a board presence standpoint, it might look on the outside looking in that he's fine. You know from experience, having played that deck, that he's feeling pressed, he's feeling annoyed, and you can maximize that feeling of discomfort and pressure that the deck is at to be able to eke out wins that you might not have been able to previously, not understanding where the deck feels not 100%. And I think 100% on what Chris was saying, the more you get experience understanding piloting a deck, the much better you are at facing towards it. You know, and typically for me, like if you guys want an example, like I find I'm exceptional when it comes to the Invoker mirror match. But that's just because I know how much my opponent frustrate me with the stuff that they do to make the deck feel awkward. And that's just kind of that's a little bit more key. You know, that's once you've learned how to play the game and you're comfortable with your deck and you want to get to the next level competitive, it's definitely there. But as 100% a phenomenal tool, and almost every player who is top level at this game across national champions and even a world champion, they definitely at least test out every deck to understand those specifics. So that would pretty much close out anything I'd have to say in terms of like new players trying to get better at the game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one more thing, and it's simply just get good, scrub.
Yeah.
Like, that's about it.
God, yeah. I mean, yes. Oh, me too. I mean, God. All right, last question to round out the podcast is asked by Carlo. Do you enjoy lentil soup?
Is this a random Carlo? Is this our Carlo?
This is I mean, our Carlo, I guess I would want to say. If I look at the mutual servers, he's on mine. I don't see him on yours. So if he's not on your server and your Carlo's on your server, then I'd say it's
all right, guys. Just to make sure, when people I know be asking these weird questions, now, lentils are the small little bean things, right?
Yeah. They're like little legumes.
Just like imagine soft gravel pebbles in your soup. That's lentils. I need beans, or it just needs to be all soup. But do not serve me these minuscule cat litter like texture. I do not enjoy lentil soup.
I don't mind it. It's not my favorite, but like generally, like almost all soups are like welcome into my stomach. So I mean, I'll eat it if it's there. I'd like you. I would rather beans or like little pasta balls or something. But like if it has to be lentils, like I don't mind that much. It's whatever.
That's fair. Well, yeah. I mean, that was a weird question, but all I gotta say is, people who are listening, there's just always information to glean, and one day you too could graduate from scrub to headmaster scrubs by topping or winning events with scrub level decks such as U7 Gohan or Ramp Gogeta.
Yes, there's always an opportunity there for you to mark your name in history by janking it out and getting some really good matchups throughout the tournament.
By janking it out.
Oh,
yeah.
But with that said, guys, of course, that was the Super Combo Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, if you guys want to find us, you guys can find me at Espira TV or Espira TCG over on YouTube. Chris, where can the people find you?
Many places. You get onto your local bar in Northern Virginia at 2 a.m. I'm probably there set. No, for real though. You can catch me at UniXDBS on YouTube, but you can also catch me at UniXDBS on both Instagram and Twitter.
Awesome. And of course, guys, if you guys want to listen to the show on your favorite podcasting app, we are on all of them. So definitely go check that out and subscribe. And with that said, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
All right, later.